of King Hezekiah. Assyria's king sent his field commander from Lachish, together with a large army, to King Hezekiah at Jerusalem. He stood at the water channel of the upper pool, which is on the road to the field where clothes are washed. Hilkiah's son Eliakim, who was the palace administrator, Shebna the secretary, and Asaph's son Joah the recorder, went out with them. Then the field commander stood up and shouted in Hebrew at the top of his voice, "Listen to the message of the great king, Assyria's king. The king says this, don't let Hezekiah lie to you. He won't be able to rescue you. Don't let Hezekiah persuade you to trust the Lord by saying, the Lord will certainly rescue us. This city won't be handed over to Assyria's king. Don't listen to Hezekiah, because this is what Assyria's king says. Surrender to me and come out. Then each of you will eat from your own vine and fig tree and drink water from your own well until I come to take you to a land just like your land. It will be a land of grain and new wine, a land of bread and vineyards. Don't let Hezekiah fool you by saying, the Lord will rescue us. Did any of the other gods of the nations save their lands from the power of Assyria's king? Where are the gods of Hamath and Arpad? Where are the gods of Serabaim? Did they rescue Samaria from my power? Which one of the gods from those countries has rescued their land from my power? Will the Lord save Jerusalem from my power? When King Hezekiah heard this, he ripped his clothes, covered himself with mourning cloths, and went to the Lord's temple. He sent Eliakim, the palace administrator, Shebna the secretary, and the senior priests to the prophet Isaiah, Amos' son. They were all wearing mourning clothes. They said to him, Hezekiah says this, today is a day of distress, punishment, and humiliation. It's as if children are ready to be born, but there's no strength to see it through. Perhaps the Lord your God heard all of the words of the field commander who was sent by his master, Assyria's king. He insulted the living God. Perhaps he will punish him for the words that the Lord your God has heard. Offer up a prayer for those few people who still survive. When King Hezekiah's servants got to Isaiah, Isaiah said to them, say this to your master. The Lord says this, don't be afraid at the words you heard, which the officers of Assyria's king have used to insult me. I'm about to mislead him. So when he hears a rumor, he'll go back to his own country. Then I'll have him cut down by the sword in his own land. This is what Isaiah, Amos' son, saw concerning Judah and Jerusalem. In the days to come, the mountain of the Lord's house will be the highest of the mountains. It will be lifted up above the hills. People will stream to it. Many nations will go and say, come, let's go up to the Lord's mountain, to the house of Jacob's God, so that he may teach us his ways, and we may walk in God's paths. Instruction will come from Zion, the Lord's word from Jerusalem. God will judge between the nations and settle disputes of mighty nations. Then they will beat their swords into iron plows, and their spears into pruning tools. Nation will not take up sword against nation. They will no longer learn how to make war. This is the word of the Lord. Thanks be to God. So that was a bit of a confusing story, lots of characters. I have a slide to kind of just help you remember which king belongs to which kingdom. Bonnie, if you could put that slide up, we'll keep that up there so you can remember. We got King Hezekiah, Judah. Those are God's people, the good people will say. King Sennacherib is from Assyria. He is the not-so-good king who's trying to invade the people of God's land. So imagine, if you will, if the city of Austin just decided to invade the surrounding areas. They went up to Pflugerville and said, you know what, we want your land. Why don't you come join us, become residents of the city of Austin. We want to expand our territory. Now obviously, Austin and Pflugerville are not on an even playing field. There are a whole lot more people here in the city of Austin. We've got more resources, so it would not really be a fair fight, right? Well, this is how it is between Assyria and Judah. Assyria has this massive army. They've got a lot of people. They've already invaded so many places. The northern kingdom, they've wiped them out. And so they're kind of closing in on Judah. They've got them surrounded, and now the king of Assyria is coming to them and telling them, look, you should just kind of forget about your king, forget about your land. We've got things better over here in Assyria. It's almost like he's trying to persuade them to just give up their lives and just come on over to the dark side, if you will. So this Assyrian king, he wants them to turn their backs on their own king, but that's also going to mean turning their backs on God. This is a big deal. There are Assyrian kings trying to sway us all the time. Here is what the world tells us: that seeking prosperity and success is the highest pursuit in life. That our own safety and security at the risk of others is fine. We don't need to worry about them. That money will bring us happiness. These messages from the world run counter to what we hear in the gospel, what Jesus teaches us. But these messages are so persuasive. Why bother following God when all these other things bring instant gratification? In the show, The Good Place, which is one of my favorite shows these days, it's not written by theologians, but there is a whole lot of theology in this show. There's a character named Eleanor Shellstrom. And I've got a slide up here, Bonnie, you'll change it. She's at a bar, and she's had a few drinks, and she has this monologue about how she approaches life, especially as an American. She says, in America, everyone does whatever they want. Society did break down, it's terrible, and it's great. You only look out for number one. You scream at whoever disagrees with you. There are no bees because they all died. And if you need surgery, you just beg for money on the internet. It's the perfect system. This is a pretty grim look at what life is sort of like in some instances in America. But her statement encapsulates the epitome of this message that we hear from the world, right? That we're supposed to look out for number one. It's all about us and our needs. Don't worry about other people. Nobody ever gets ahead by being nice, that message tells us. It's this message that tells us the words of the gospel are foolish. That it'll just get us killed if we don't defend ourselves or put up a fight. Well, this is the message that the king of Assyria uses on the people of Judah. He tries to scare the people of Judah. This powerful army comes in with all their fancy armor, their weaponry. No doubt the people of Judah are impressed by this display. And they come in with this message of, come on, over to our side. Life is better over here. You don't have to worry about worshiping your God or following all of those rules and commandments. Come on over to Assyria. Well, the king of Assyria has got connections, so what he's promising probably has some weight to it. He's promising a life more comfortable than the Judeans have experienced thus far. Perhaps they should obey. Perhaps they should disown their king Hezekiah, ditch him, while also ditching God. Well, Hezekiah, the king of Judah, is distraught over this, of course. He tears his clothes and puts on a sackcloth, which is a funny biblical way of saying he was grieved and distressed. He knows he doesn't stand a chance against the king of Assyria. He cannot match what that king is offering. Hezekiah fears that his people will be lured away by this foreign king, where they'll likely be forced into slavery, just like their ancestors were before them. History repeats itself. So he sends his servants to consult with the prophet Isaiah. He seeks out a word of hope and guidance. Isaiah, a prophet close to God's heart, indeed has a word of hope. He offers an assurance that Assyria will not wipe out the people of God. Isaiah says he's going to send this haunting word to the king of Assyria, which will scare him back to his land. His army will retreat, and they will give up the fight. The people of Judah won't have to raise a weapon to this wicked king because God will intercede. So Isaiah promises these things, and God follows through. The people of Judah are saved, and they are free from this foreign threat. But the key point here is that Isaiah was able to see a different way. He was able to see a peaceable kingdom where warfare is no more. He doesn't tell the people of Judah to fight back, to arm themselves. He doesn't tell them to meet violence with violence. He tells them to trust that God is going to take care of this, that God's promises are from everlasting to everlasting. This continues the theme that we've been following throughout the Old Testament the past few weeks. We have seen God's love poured out to Noah, to Abraham, to the people of Israel. Through troubling and frightening times, God has never left their side. Whenever they have turned to God and trusted in God, they've been rescued from their plight. This shows that God has a much better track record than Assyria. And the funny thing about Assyria is that it no longer exists today. It's an extinct nation. It dwindled down to nothing, even though it was so powerful back at this time. Apparently that Assyrian king was full of empty promises that would not last. He wasn't as powerful as he thought he was. The people of Judah were much better off trusting God, because while Assyria has gone extinct, God is still here and always will be. They were able to trust God because Isaiah gave them that image of an alternate reality. In the midst of those violent times, Isaiah envisions this peaceable kingdom, one in which God intervenes and dismisses all enemies. Isaiah tells them they don't need to fight the Assyrians because God is going to take care of it. What does it look like for us to trust in God's promise for peace? It's a little hard to imagine in our world where violence is our go-to. We have this tendency of being on guard, suspicious of any foreigners or strangers. We're suspicious even of migrants in a caravan seeking asylum at our border. We're ready to fire because we assume they mean us harm. But what if we try a different way? What if we try that non-violent way that Isaiah suggests? There's this stunning example of a peaceful response. It took place in Berlin, Germany in the 1980s, which if you remember your history, that was a rather tumultuous time in that country. The Cold War was raging, the Berlin Wall was dividing the country, and the East German regime was oppressive. Pastor Führer and his congregation at St. Nicholas Church had hopes for an alternative, a peaceful kingdom in the midst of all that violence. And so this church in Berlin started to pray. They gathered every Monday night. They sought God in prayer, praying for peace for their city, for their nation, and for the world. It started out as just a handful of people. Momentum built and the numbers grew. People heard about it. Each Monday night, they faithfully gathered and sought God's peace. The odds were against them because they lived in an atheist-ruled land. It was not exactly safe for them to be doing this. But still, they prayed. 7 years later, this faithful group continued every Monday night until the situation reached a boiling point. The regime started to pay attention. They noticed this group of prayers as their numbers grew to the thousands. In October 1989, protesters from all over came to join this faithful group of people. Their numbers reached 70,000 that first week, 120,000 the next, and 300,000 people gathered to pray that third week in October. All of them praying for peace. The East German officials were armed with riot gear, and they were caught off guard by this demonstration of peace. They would have fought had the people been armed with weapons. The East German officials would later say that they were prepared for anything, but not for prayers and candles. The Berlin Wall came down shortly after. These prayerful people played a role in ending that violent era because they trusted that God would prevail, and that they didn't have to work at it with violence. They didn't have to pick up their weapons and fight back. They knew what the civil rights leaders in America knew, that nonviolent protests speak volumes louder than violent ones. The people of that Berlin prayer meeting sought God's will. They had a vision for a peaceable kingdom. While it seems like we have far to go until peace rules this earth, we can't lose sight of this vision laid out by Isaiah. He declares that people shall beat their swords into plowshares, their spears into pruning hooks. Nation will not lift up sword against nation, neither shall they learn war anymore. This message, spoken 700 years before Jesus walked the earth, set a foundation for the message he would teach. That those who live by the sword will die by the sword. That if the only thing we have in our hand is a hammer, everything looks like a nail. Christ calls us to a different way, a peaceable way. This message is so contradictory to what the world tells us, but isn't that how it goes with Jesus? God's promise remains with us still. That peaceable kingdom is coming. We have to trust in God's promise and follow that call to refuse the violent way. May we be faithful to follow the way of Christ. Amen. I'll invite you to stand for our song of reflection, Redeemed.